Hey, hi everyone. This is Ranmay here on his show E-Coffee with Experts. Today we have Ramsey Sweis, who is the founder and president of Aqaba Technologies. Welcome, Ramsey.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Ramsey, before we move any forward and let us speak about and then hear from you about how do you channelize your sales funnels and stuff, I request you to introduce yourself to our audiences.
Yes, my name is Ramsey Sweis. I'm the president and founder of Aqaba Technologies. We're located in lovely Michigan, and our background began back in 2004. The conceptualization of the company and its business model. We started off as a search engine marketing company and evolved into web design, boutique design, and SEO, and then social media as we adopted the progress of these utilities as we know today.
Yeah, absolutely. And then since we were discussing about sales funnels before the podcast, I would like to start it off about knowing about how do you think about what is your take on the importance of aligning those sales funnel with the buyer's journey? And what are the key considerations that any business should look into while creating that effective alignment?
Yes, great question. So, for example, the sales funnel varies from audience to audience because primarily you're targeting the audience. It's not for the business. But if it's business to business, B2B, or B2C, then it's a completely different landscape. The behavior of the sales journey in terms of segmenting the steps along the way, it varies. So let's just say, for example, you have upload. So when you look upstream and upload, where is this traffic coming from? How are we targeting them? How do we get them to perform a certain task, which is to land on your sales page or sales funnel? And what are they doing when they reside onto the sales page? And then as they go through the segmentation, the top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom of funnel conversion, and then evergreen perpetuity. What happens after you capture this information? That the entire life cycle of that user is captured and behaviors are modeled and that data is collected. So having all the appropriate attributions in place really are just as important as, say, devising an ad campaign, budget, strategy, content, your tone, the avatar, performing the research. Now, what do you do with that data once you collect it as you drive traffic to the sales funnel? That's the craft, right? This is the science. And let's say, for example, through the onboarding process, you want to analyze the data, you want to capture the customer's attention, whether you speak different tones from B2B standpoint or from the perspective of B2C. The sales page, the design, the UX for both mobile and for desktop, primarily mobile, the nurturing of that relationship throughout the process of the upstream, top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel conversion, evergreen. And then staying in touch, having outreach via social media, and then having the correct platform in place that you want to use. There are many out there. All are good. All serve a different purpose. All have different benefits, but it all depends if it checks the boxes of what you're trying to provide your client as the end goal. From a reverse engineering standpoint, the goal is what matters. And then you go back to your ad copy, the messaging, the tone, the brand, the user experience, and the optimization through conversion rate optimization over time takes effect, and it just improves. All very important, all driven by data. So attribution, singling out each step of the funnel, upstream, as they leave the funnel, downstream, all of this data should be collected, and then a model starts to shape. It takes place. As it forms, your job as a marketer is to optimize and deliver results. And to do that, it must be managed. It's not something back in the day when funnels first launched and you set it and let it go because no one really knew they were on a sales funnel page. They thought it was just a landing page or a very poorly designed sales page, but it worked. Today, your audience is far more sophisticated And you need to better establish credibility as an authority from the B2B standpoint. From the B2C standpoint, you need trust signals, citations, credibility, um, use case study, video. You'll figure all this out when you see what's performing and what's performing in an ill fashion, and how do you improve and leverage what you have working for your team in terms of that sales funnel. So that's the long version. The short version, goals.
Yeah.
Understanding target audience helps you define that roadmap, the customer journey from point of entry, from a click to where they left, what's the behavior on page, off page, and then speaking to that audience where having a retargeting plan, maybe that's important. Try it, collect the data, take the feedback, devise a plan. What does the model look like? Present to your client, see what your audience likes and dislikes about it. And that's where the attribution helps you allocate or reallocate your budget accordingly. So it's an ongoing relationship. It's a symbiotic relationship. And it's very important to have a data mindset, first
Yeah.
and foremost, knowing what the goal is going to be, and then architecting accordingly in a reverse engineering standpoint to your messaging, your content, the graphic images for your ads, and the content, the body, the description, and the offer.
I mean, data is at the central focus point of all of it that we speak about in SEO, digital marketing, PPC. And in a lot of businesses, obviously, this you must have faced it as well. A lot of businesses, when they approach you as the expert in digital marketing or as a marketer, they all talk about that lead gen number. End of the day, a lot of businesses, they do not really care about what you're doing, whether it is technical SEO, you're running ads, they have given you a budget, or let's say you're building links, but they want their phone ringing, right? So lead gen becomes so important for the end businesses, right? What are your techniques at Aqaba to attract those high quality leads to put in those sales funnels for your clients?
Yes, there's organic
Hmm.
and there's paid. So both verticals work. Organic takes a little bit longer in terms of SEO, but organic in terms of content marketing, newsletter, remarketing, retargeting, that can be instantaneous if you've checked all the boxes leading up to that point. And how we manage our campaigns gave you the skinny on the onboarding process, outlining the basics, very simple sales funnel. There's much more to it, but there's also much less to it depending on the type of product, your budget, and other possible constraints that you identify along the way. So I would say, let's just say, for example, you have a budget is X, right? Call it $10,000 a month.
Hmm.
And of that $10,000 in ad spend, you budget it accordingly. You allocate some for Google, you allocate some for Facebook paid ads, possibly LinkedIn paid ads, and then to perform based on the target audience and the sales goals. If you don't have the budget, you're going to fail from the get, right? Like, there's no sense even taking on that client. So they either have the budget to perform on Google, there'll be a minimum in terms of ad spend. On LinkedIn, a minimum. Facebook is more flexible. You can go video on demand, or you can do contextual ads and static ads and carousel ads. So there's a variance of those. That's where attribution comes into play, and you have to budget accordingly and see what performs best, and then scale accordingly. SEO is long term. That is more highly qualified sets of eyeballs in terms of users if done properly. And what we do for ourselves and for our clients, in some cases in the B2B world, is crafting very fruitful, useful, relevant articles. And we do that in a dual pronged approach. One prong within that fork is to write content that can be optimized up to the top level domain or sitemap within your website, and all of your metadata and everything accordingly, right? It's all relevant. And then you get the juice on that article, and that article tends to rank very well if properly crafted. There's PRs. You can do PRs and do distribution by region or globally. Point that to a landing page or a sales page, and by accident, you're going to get traffic to that page.
Yeah.
That's another channel. That's how you leverage content. The other is newsletter. Don't just produce a newsletter for the sake of seeing your name come across your inbox. It needs to be purposeful. It needs to be fruitful. They give this information away. I'm a true believer in that. You get to show your knowledge, trust, the value in what you do, and you get to show and express your passion about your industry and your knowledge. So all very truthful, all very honest, and all meaningful. From there, make sure that you craft your newsletters to a landing page, whether it hosts the entire article, an infographic, a downloadable takeaway, but try to leverage that so there's retention. And the retention will lead to subscriptions, revisits, shares, social posts, etc. And lastly, what I believe in the second fork is the credibility factor. Just by accident, by creating this content, you're viewed as an industry expert or someone who's very knowledgeable in that space. So you're establishing a relationship and you're asking for nothing, no sales page. Just here's the information, do with it what you please. Just come back and visit and watch more often. That's the social. Like, follow, share, join a group, roundtable conversations, speak with your peers. And that's the second fork. So in terms of content marketing, it's very important to have these principles in place, but the first and foremost being give it away. And no one wants to see spam. No one wants to read spam. No one wants to read something that is somewhat interesting, right? There needs to be value behind it. So think like this when creating your blog posts. Provide images, provide infographics, provide links to videos, link up to other articles, keep them entertained, and extend the length of that user experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Content is such an important role, like you mentioned, and AI has actually taken it up, blown it away in the last couple of quarters. So just wanted to generally understand, what is your take on AI? Where are we headed?
Love it. Love it. It should be used as a tool that complements everything that we do.
Yeah.
The mistakes, the media is blowing AI out of proportion, and the misconception of AI doing humanization of AI is far from. It still needs a human interaction and input. So AI is only as good as the input. So how we use AI, Ranmay, is to give us insight, to perform the research, and not to do our job of personalization. Asking a robot to personalize something or teaching it to speak in my tone or my voice is not me. And to me, I think it's a cop out for people in our industry, and they should not use it to replace human generated content inspired or the guide rails provided by AI to allow you to turn that content over quickly.
Yeah.
And then there's the media part. So you can create graphic elements. That's fine to assist you with, say, SEO research. We do heavily use AI to research competitors, prior campaigns, leading industry topics and subjects, to go out and perform the research on that. Think about all the things we have to do collectively in our day to drop everything, to perform research, to get your keyword strategy, your competitor information. All of these things take time, takes knowledge, takes know-how, and then you have to present it. AI takes about 90% of that task off our plate. The 10% is the knowledge, how to purpose that, and what the goal, the end, like where you want to land with this information. You can't eliminate the humanization aspect. So that's
Absolutely.
personal
And
perspective.
it does give you a head start, like you mentioned, in terms of collecting information, which will take time for a human to do it, right? But it cannot be your, final deliverable product, because the end consumer of the content is a human at the end of the day. So that human touch in terms of humanizing the content, which has to be read by a human at the end of the day, and then that in itself, that logic justifies that it really cannot take up human jobs. So yeah, people are scared, but that's the way we look at it as an organization as well. We use it to the optimum in terms of reaping out the benefits, saving time. We've just seen that our resources have become all the more efficient after using AI versus the other way around, that people are thinking or were thinking at one point. Yeah, it's just the way how you're going to use it, how you think about it. Yeah. And also, Ramsey, about since we were discussing about leads, talking about leads, when you are either doing SEO or social media campaigns, or let's say PPC ads, you get a lot of leads, right? And there are junk leads, there are not so good leads. Then there are good leads, hot leads. For any business, it becomes extremely crucial to bifurcate and segregate those leads so that they can be nurtured moving forward. If you can help us understand what are the best practices as per you for qualifying and prioritizing them to ensure that it is efficiently allocated to the resources in the organization, or in your case, in your client's business.
Yeah, scrubbing through that data is very important. And in terms of leads, I always lean on attribution. Attribution by industry. You
Hmm.
can go verticals within an industry. You can go industry by general purposes, and then the modeling takes shape. The number you want to look at in terms of paid ads is
Hmm.
cost per acquisition.
Absolutely.
So if you were to silo those segments, say for example, you have healthcare, you have manufacturing, you have industrial, you can break down B to B to C as well. And you look at attribution, of course, if my cost per acquisition is $1,800 for healthcare, but yet manufacturing is $22, and there needs to be a decision made, like the economics, the business sense takes in
Yeah.
place. And I see many agencies fail from that standpoint, which is why things fall into our lap, because they've had an experience, they believe in it, but they also believe that they don't have the right team in place. We tend to land those types of accounts because of our background, technical background, our data management and background and data mining background. So to me, if you were to silo these things accordingly and look at the numbers, the bare bone numbers, you need a sales, and then the the human business logic. What does this mean? I'm reading the data, put your reports together, analyze the data, converse with your clients and often, and get them to cooperate in terms of, I think that's probably the biggest challenge we have is everyone's so busy. They just expect us to know everything. We don't know is how many leads did you close? How many deals do you have in the hopper? How many came from call tracking, right? Like pay per call. How many came from PPC from your website? How many were mobile? How many were desktop? This data really helps us perfect our craft and optimize for even greater results as you hone in on your skill sets, right? So those inputs, that attribution is also required from the customer. So that means as an agency, you need to interact and schedule meetings weekly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual, annually, and then do a year in review. And
Right.
in that year in review, that dovetails into budget planning for the up and coming year. So when you put that into perspective, it should be done in Q4, right? That's why we have gone fishing signs on our doors the month of December because we're
Yeah.
completely booked at scheduling all of our client meetings and budget and planning for the up and coming year. So it's not something you put, say, a salesperson on that task. It needs to be the account manager who's
Absolutely.
rummaging through this data on a daily basis, right? So
Yeah.
how does that affect your business? It affects your agency too. If you have a properly scheduled reviews in place for the year and it's adopted as part of your workflows, right? It should be in your day-to-day management. And
Yeah.
then that signal will help you optimize your cost per click, cost per conversion, off-page optimization of your campaign, your on-page optimization of your campaign, your upstream optimization to your campaign, and all of it melts together and affects your cost per acquisition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in talking about these leads, what are those key metrics that you or your account managers or project managers look at while tracking the measure of which drives those leads to the sales funnels?
Boy, that's an excellent question. In place should be identified in your campaign requirements before you kick the campaign off. All of this should be outlined and checked off your project management as part of your workflow. Now, when we look at your research, it's a good baseline. It's not final. If you have the funds, deep enough funds to drive traffic to a sales page, track the performance of that campaign and the website, then you can make intelligent decisions on behalf of your client and recommendations based on the data points and the sets that everything flows up to. And that affects your budget, it affects performance, it affects optimization requirements, and you can mask it that way as part of your reporting. For me, if I were a client, I would want to know very simply what's my cost per acquisition. And the model is if I spend X, I should receive around Y, right?
Yeah.
So we're plus minus within this range. And I can share with you that our clients, some of them tend to get very spoiled. They have a stellar month and then things seasonally taper
Yeah.
downwards. So the ebbs and flows. So when you're in the valley, your phone's ringing. When you're in peaks, they don't want to talk to you. And it's part of the game. That's just how the internet works. There are seasonal trends. There are non-seasonal trends too, and that can be addressed and cured. But the seasonal trends, you can't really do much. Throwing more money at it is not the solution to the problem. Optimizing, if you average it out and you see the performance year over year, if you were to map overlay bar chart and look at your performance, cost per click is always going to increase. That's
Mhm.
just the way it works. So the bidding strategy, what you're willing to pay and what you're actually paying are different, but always be willing to pay more. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to pay that amount. And then optimizing that channel for top performance is like natural. That should be your goal and your objective for your campaigns. I hope I'm able to answer that question properly.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I also wanted to understand from you those strategies that you use at Aqaba Technologies to maximize these funnel to ensure that the funnel is kept warm and it fills in through the entire year. Although there will be ebbs and flows like you mentioned, but how you as an agency for a client's business ensure that it is kept warm throughout the year.
I'll throw the kitchen sink at that one. So obviously there's your paid ads, right?
Yeah.
And then there's your top of funnel, mid funnel, bottom funnel, evergreen. So where's your onboarding process at the bottom of funnel?
Yeah.
You need to determine where that is. So now you need some automations in place. All of this can be automated. The ecosystem is fully automated.
Mhm.
A smart marketer will develop the entry point to the exit point and perpetuity. And then the segmentation of top, mid, and bottom of funnel, the nurturing process. So let's say I'm giving away this thing. write an ebook. And they click on the ad on Google or Facebook. They land on the landing page. They arrive at the landing page and they go through the copy. You can track that entire user experience. Now, they either performed something or they did not. So if yes, then these set of rules apply.
Yeah.
Download, you have to provide your email. It's then dispatched, it's sent out. Moments later, they click on it. If they don't click on it, then the rules apply. Keep nurturing until that conversion at top of funnel takes place. They download, it's executed. Then what's the next step? When they download, there's a thank you page. Thank you for downloading. Maybe it's a video explainer, personalized message by a real person, not an avatar. And it welcomes them and thanks them. And then hopefully they find benefit in this download. And then the next series of events happen. How do we get them to the middle of funnel? If you like the ebook, or if you would like to schedule a free consultation, then we welcome you to perform the next set of tasks, right?
Yeah.
You go to a calendar, they schedule, it syncs with the team calendar, a sales rep then sends out an email. It's automated. It's personalized. Have your photo in the email signature. I want to see who the person is. Maybe even a link to a video introducing themselves really helps. And then from there, they schedule. It's booked in their calendar, an invitation, or it's synced directly with the user calendar and the salesperson. Then there's a set of reminders that take place
Yeah.
up until that moment. But it can't be spammy, right?
Yeah.
2, maybe 3 emails, 1, 3 days before, a second one, 2 days before, a third one, say 15 minutes or an hour before the scheduled meeting as a reminder. In some cases, we use SMS. If we're taking their phone number, we'll send a message via text message just an hour before, as opposed to each step of the way. It's a bit irritating to have your personal mobile number being pinged 3 days straight. And then they either attend, conditional logic, or they don't. If they attend, there's a series of thank you emails that go out afterwards, thanking them for attending and what the next steps are, potential steps are, in warming them up to a sales meeting or a demo or a potential proposal submittal to review the proposal. Don't just email it. Schedule that Zoom call, if you will, to go over the proposal. And you record it. You send them a video of the recorded meeting and your proposal, or the demo, also a recording. It's personalized. It means a lot to the user. And it also puts you ahead of the competition.
Absolutely. I can vouch for this because we also do this as a practice, and this has worked wonders while not really sharing the proposal on an email, actually explaining every logic as to why you have proposed something against what was the need, what was the discussion, so that you have to actually present it in a way wherein it matches to their expectation requirements and the discussion versus your proposal, rather than just sending out a very fancy PDF proposal on an email. So I can completely relate to what you mentioned, and a very valid point there in terms of explaining the proposal over a Zoom call to help them understand why have you mentioned so and so thing against so and so parameters, and what is the thought process behind preparing that proposal as well, versus just mentioning numbers and the dollar value against it.
Yeah, implying fear is not good, but presenting an expectation. Ranmay, this is what we're going to accomplish in our demo.
Yeah.
And the expectation is as follows. We expect you to walk away knowing ABC 1, 2, 3.
Correct.
No strings attached.
Absolutely.
That alleviates the pressure of being sold. That alleviates the hard selling tactics that we're all expecting on a day-to-day basis when you open up your email. This is what we don't want. We want the opposite
Yeah,
and not sell. It's your job to inform.
absolutely.
And that,
Absolutely. Agree
and
more.
it's, yeah, you solve this problem that they have, and their guard is not up, waiting for the 1-2, the left, the right, and then the uppercut to follow. That goes away. You have to establish credibility. You become the authority. You become liked and welcoming to the next step into your sales process, which is to not sell. And at the end, here's your proposal. We did the presentation. Yes, I'm interested. No, I'm not.
Yeah, absolutely. We also leave the door open for our consumers, and we also for our clients wherein we get operationally involved. We always educate the clients to further educate their end clients and inform them about the process. If they, let's say, create a 12-month roadmap plan for them to succeed. Now, that success they can achieve either with you or some other partner, some other vendor. But at
Yeah.
least you have shown them the process. So you have kept that dialogue open that this is the way of doing it. You can do it with someone else. That's absolutely fine. But your job, since they walked into you, it's your job to educate and tell them that this is the best way that we feel you should go about. And then you leave the door open that, like you mentioned, it's a yes or a no. It's their call fine at the end of the day. And you have to accept it. That's absolutely fine. And not selling is so important in sales. So that is one learning that our audiences will definitely take out today from this podcast. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like what we're doing right now. I'm passionate about what we do. Our team
Yeah.
is very passionate. We have longevity here in terms of team members, clientele, and take great pride in that. So
Lovely.
if we're not up to tune with the industry, I can't provide value. I'm just doing what everyone else is doing. I can find those people everywhere and anywhere. But to establish a relationship with someone, you need to be the authority. You need to provide value and insight into the black hole. This is what you're going to expect in working with us. Or in the case of your question on a strategy for a sales funnel or a campaign, right? This is what you're going to expect, and we map it all out. Now, the bottom of the funnel to complete the campaign is another set of rules. Yes, I'm interested. We book, we, whatever the conversion measurement is, if it's a demo, a request for a proposal, or audit, a review, say in terms of SEO, like what you do. Here's a comprehensive SEO report. Here are all the 200 plus signals that Google is monitoring. Here's where you reside within this ecosystem, and then the recommended improvements. Now, that's great, but what's my strategy? That's where most audits fail because they're just generating a report using some third-party software, but
Yeah.
it's not applicable in terms of keyword strategy. We call them the payloads, right? So it would be your profit center keywords,
Absolutely.
not what's easiest to optimize and get you rankings. Here you go, Mr. Client. I got your first position on a very broad keyword that's not going to amount to much in terms of sales.
Yeah. No traffic at all. You're ranking, but there's no point there.
So bottom of funnel, if yes, then a set of rules. We welcome them. We want to schedule an onboarding process. Here's what you're to expect as the next steps, maybe even a video, a personalized video, and welcoming them with just a brief bullet point on the sales page or the welcome onboarding sales page. The other would be the evergreen. So now it automatically enters them into an email newsletter and invitations to click and follow or join their social groups. So
Right.
it goes on from there. You don't just hand it off to the sales team and then begin the onboarding process and scheduling. There's an ongoing nurturing process, and there's also an ongoing delivery of material. And it helps with cross-selling and upselling and pushing them further into your CRM for forecasting.
Yeah.
And so all of this can be done with the proper sales funnel and a CRM with automation features and characteristics that cover like the workflow I described.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ramsey. And so we have spoken so much about sales. Before we wrap it up, I would just like to understand your thought process on customer retention, which is so important in today's date because there is so much of competition for any business, for any niche, for any industry for that matter, right? You cannot
Yeah.
really afford to have a leaking bucket when you are spending so much of energy to create that sales funnel, that ops model, and finally converting a client. And you cannot afford to lose a client in 6 months down the line. So it is very important for sure. What is your thought around it? How should businesses create that stickiness for the clients to stick around with their business for a longer period of time?
That's the agency's role. It's their responsibility.
Hmm.
So if you don't have a step-by-step process in place,
Hmm.
your team members are only as good as leadership, right?
Yeah.
If I don't outline goals and objectives and have team meetings and sit in on client meetings and review and analyze and show areas of weakness that can be improved upon, touch on what they've done really well, then your team is just going to continue down that path and you're going to have churn and it's not a profitable venue for you or your clientele.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And now that you've put it on the agency side of things, I'm sure a lot of our listeners from the industry would get scared to take that ownership after the sales happen as well. Right.
Yeah. You know what that matriculates into a couple $100 a month client and everyone's targeting them. Or if you want to increase your engagement retainer, you have to be a true agency. There needs to
Yeah.
be customer service in place,
Uh,
um, expectations like on a monthly basis. Get into that routine. Clients gonna. You know what my biggest pain point is, Ron May, getting clients to return my calls. To in terms of speaking on behalf of the agency,
I
right?
can probably imagine. Yeah.
There's the notion that everything's good. It's in the hands of my agency.
Hmm.
There
Yeah.
needs to be some communication. A little collaboration goes a long way. And as long
Yeah.
as we're doing our job by reaching out to the client, I can
Mhm.
always put it back onto their plate and say, you missed this meeting. We deferred this meeting. We've hit a glass ceiling to get to the next level. We need a commitment.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest challenge. Everything else can be perfect. It doesn't matter. When you hit that glass ceiling with the client, it becomes a challenge. You can't improve.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Ramsey. And we have spoken a lot about the sales funnel, retention as well, customer retention. There's a lot of serious discussion. But finally, before wrapping this up, before we let you go, I want to play a quick rapid fire with you. I hope you're
Shoot.
game for it.
Shoot.
Great. Your favorite book?
48 laws of attraction.
Okay. Your last Google search? You can check your computer if you want to.
Nope.
You
Ooh,
remember
it
that?
was brand new.
That was a good one. That was a good one. Okay. And where did you go on your last vacation?
My last vacation was Indian Rocks, Florida.
Ah, okay. And let's say if we have to make a movie on you, if DWS has to make a movie on you, what genre would it be?
Oh man, what genre?
You couldn't have Googled that about me for sure.
If I can narrow it down to two,
Go ahead. We'll take you for this one.
I love Bruce Willis. I'm old school, die hard,
Uh-huh.
and like action.
So action movie that is.
Yeah, the other would be like business oriented, like Wall Street or something along those lines.
Yeah, okay. Talking about business, it brings to my last question, not really any further. What is that one thing that you like the most about your job or let's say this industry or the field that we are in?
This is, oh man, so I'd have to say premium has to be the success of our campaigns, putting a smile on our client's face.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. That's a good one, sir. Yeah. Super, Ramsey. Really, thank you so much for taking out time for this
Pleasure. Thank you
podcast.
for having me. This was very nice and a pleasurable experience. Thank you so much for what you do.
Great. Pleasure is all mine. And thank you for your time. Really appreciate you coming to our podcast. Yeah. And I'm sure our audiences would have benefited a lot out of the insights which you have shared tonight. And I can't thank you enough. Yeah. You have a great day. Cheers.